Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here. Tuesday now, the 14th of October, 2025. Great to have you along with me, everybody. Got a lot to talk about with you today. We're going to discuss what's happening, what's coming up next after Lorenzo, after this double-barreled storm system that we had off the east coast of the U.S., all the action in the southwest. I want to kind of recap everything, and I want to address this disaster that has occurred in western Alaska. Kind of got past a lot of people, including me. I saw it kind of go by in my timeline, but I didn't focus too much on it, and I feel bad about that. So I want to talk about that situation in western Alaska from what was a very powerful typhoon in the western Pacific. It has now affected the great state of Alaska, and we're going to discuss a lot of other things in between. All right, so let's get started. First of all, a little bit of a catch-up on the old report card for the hurricane season. Our ACE count still running just a hair below normal at 97 is the score right now. 12 named storms total. Our big ACE producers, of course, Aaron, and then we have Umberto in there, and Gabrielle at 19. All the other ones generally low ACE producers because they either lasted a very short amount of time or they were weak, or a combination of the two. That's where the ACE, the accumulated cyclone energy, really is a great metric for us weather nerds. All right, so here's what it looks like. At least we're getting less and less activity for now. The interactive tracking map on the HurricaneTrack Insider site. There is Lorenzo starting to weaken, and it'll kind of die away out here over the open Atlantic Ocean. Have another area to watch down here in the eastern Pacific. Pretty wild that the East Pac has stayed busy pretty much the entire hurricane season, off and on. We were expecting a much busier Atlantic. Instead, it has pretty much been the East Pac, right? So here's what everything looks like on satellite, and this is pretty cool. We can take a look at quite a bit of stuff here. This is the leftovers, or still going on, whatever you want to call it, the end stage of our double-barreled system. We had two lows, one that was down here, one that was up here. Now we have just kind of one for the most part. Pretty impactful storm system, flooding from the southeast U.S. all the way up the east coast here. Coastal flooding, heavy rains, especially in parts of South Carolina. North Carolina, all of the earmarks, at least most of them, of a tropical system, but because it had fronts attached to it and other characteristics that are not tropical. Again, this is all about the scientific classification of things. It didn't have a name. It wasn't Tropical Storm Melissa. That's the next name on the list as an example. And so maybe it doesn't get as much attention from people. I don't know. But certainly a lot of media attention and social media attention for it. It happened on a weekend. Lots of people were off. Lots of videos from people on social media because it was a really impactful, large storm system here. Sort of your hybrid in between the cracks kind of deal. And remember, it's all about the impacts, and that system certainly brought lots of impacts. Let's drop me back off the frame for a little bit here. Also, in the southwest U.S., just as we were thinking would happen, severe impacts in some areas from the remnants, we'll say, of Priscilla and Raymond out here. Man, that microburst, you guys see the video of that in Tempe, Arizona yesterday. I tell you what, it's too bad AI hasn't made it so that you can clone yourself and be in two places at once. Literally, I know with my cameras, I talk about it often on Fox Weather, that I can be in multiple places at once, but that's kind of metaphorical or whatever, right? I literally wish I could have been out here and over here at the same time in my physical being, because Arizona got walloped. Lots of flooding and big problems out there, some property damage, pretty dramatic stuff. Now, big-time winter-type storm coming in here to California. We had a severe thunderstorm watch and even some tornado activity, other stuff in Southern California. Luckily, this will help to end the fire season, hopefully. And then in tropical news, there is Lorenzo, sheared as it may be, sitting out here. And this is the leftover circulation of our system. Jerry, had to think about it for a second there, right? And so, yeah, the tropics are still somewhat active, and we're going to have to see what's coming after Lorenzo. Hint, hint, it's this piece of energy right here. There is Lorenzo. Again, this is another perspective of our storm system off the east coast of the United States. So I want to talk about what happened in western Alaska, because this is important, and it kind of got by me. I saw it go by in my timeline, but I was working the coastal storms. I didn't pay much attention to it, and I regret that, because I try to pick up on these big weather features, and I didn't even talk about it in my discussions leading up to when I left for the big coastal storm, and I regret that as well. But here it is. We have this typhoon that was sitting out in the Pacific. I'm going to show you one of the models here from several days ago of what that looked like. Typhoon Halong that eventually made its way up into the high latitudes, and it brought some devastating flooding, killed at least one person in western Alaska, and there's just not a lot of attention on it overall. East Coast has many tens of millions of people, I get that. Southwest United States, not quite tens of millions of people, but a lot of people. And this kind of got by everybody. I mean, not everybody. Social media is out there, and people were talking about it, as evidenced here from our internet friend Mike Adcock and others. My good friend Tim Bruno brought it up on social media, and I saw it in my feed. I was like, yeah, I want to talk about this. So what happened? Well, again, let's make me disappear for just a minute. This is the typhoon way back on the 7th of October, or 8th, whatever it is. The GFS run here from way back several days ago, and 944 millibar typhoon sitting off Japan. And then what it did is it moved up into the high latitudes, got caught in the westerlies, swept up around this giant mid-latitude or high-latitude cyclone, and then that system moved into the area of western Alaska with some strong onshore flow and massive coastal flooding, pretty deep pressure overall. Lots of damage to homes. Look at that. All those pinks in there. The way this map is set up, and this is way up at 850 millibars, so it's 5,000 feet up. But it was hurricane force winds even just a mile up. Surface winds at the down at the surface, strong as well. But it was huge. So it swept in this massive area of coastal flooding. And I want to put a couple of links in the description of today's update so that you can go and learn more about it yourselves. Great resources up here. And I'm going to pay attention to this more, because, boy, wouldn't it be something to cover one of these big, big extratropical cyclones in the great state of Alaska. Probably pretty dangerous, but that would be interesting. And with Starlink, I could do just that. So I'm going to put a link to this. I watched a little bit of this video here. It was really fascinating, just drawing attention to what happened up here. I'm going to put a link to this as well, KYUK. And all these news articles about what has gone on. Let us not forget our good friends up there in Alaska. I was there last year with my family on vacation, and what a tremendous area of the country. And I wanted to make sure that I addressed this so you all were aware of it. All right, so what is coming potentially? A lot of talk about this now, starting on social media, after Lorenzo. Well, we've been watching the global models, specifically the old GFS there. Beyond the 5-day time frame, you get these wild outcomes because, you know, the dispersion of all the possible solutions starts to happen in the modeling, and we see, you know, days 10, 12, 15, whatever, pretty wild outcomes. And we've all seen it. We all know it's available to look at. So it is literally on the radar, so to speak. Well, I mean, maybe not yet, because it's just a tropical wave off Africa. But point being, we're going to have to watch the Western Caribbean. It's climatologically favorable. We would normally watch that area this time of year. So that's the first part. Secondly, a lot of the different models here, the normal physical models and our new AI friends are, that's just so weird to say, are starting to pick up on all of this, all right? And Florida Tropics talking about it, of course. We got the different models, the Google DeepMind, the Euro, the GFS, the ensembles, really starting to uptick in their probabilities for development, mainly in the Western Caribbean, more than a week out. But climatology lends credence to all of this potentially happening and the current setup. So normally it would happen, like it's already conditionally favorable, so that part's there. Maybe that's 50% of the puzzle. The rest of it is, do we have something that could come along and take advantage of this? And the answer is, why, yes, we do. And let's use this white color. That'll make it pop. There it is right there, the vorticity signature, just starting to show up now, well south here in the open tropical Atlantic. as a piece of energy, a tropical wave, has emerged off the African coast, and we're going to have to watch that as it moves across the deep tropics here, maybe merging with some energy that makes its way off of South America, an additional vorticity boost, something to get it to start spinning and really coalescing here somewhere in the Caribbean more than a week away. So it's going to be agonizing watching this run after run, but the models are pretty insistent and persistent and consistent, all those words, with something happening. So here's what it looks like on the GFS operational. There's the area that we want to watch right there. A little blip there in the vorticity field on the GFS here. This is the 12Z run from today. That's Lorenzo, by the way, what's left of it. By the way, Lorenzo's battling some dry air and not a lot of shear, but mainly kind of a dry environment. It's hard to get stuff to develop out in this area this time of year. That's one primary reason why this won't be developing anytime soon, and it's going to have to wait and get over here, where, again, that word climatology, it is climatologically favored over there this time of the hurricane season. So let's track this piece of energy right here. I'll put a little line there to see our starting point. And you can see as it moves along, that energy just kind of rides there, and we are out at 96 hours. I'll back it up and put another line just to mark where it is. Right there, there's the tropical wave at day 4, and we get into early next week, and it enters the Caribbean. Now, we're out beyond a week right there. You know, the vorticity that comes off of South America, you got some pretty big mountains down here. Sometimes this aids in something kind of spinning up. Different shapes of coastlines. You look at the Bay of Campeche over here. Sometimes that can aid in development. The coastal bend of Texas. Look at what happened with some of our recent hurricanes there that aren't already developed. As they approach these concave coastlines, they get an assist. And while this isn't a concave coastline, at least, right, it's more convex, you know, depending on which perspective you have. The vorticity that comes off of South America, the wind energy, the low-level vorticity, you know, cyclonic vorticity, sometimes couples up with these tropical waves, and it just gives them that little boost, that little spark to get going. And this is one time where I will show you that process beyond the 7-day time frame, because I want to explain what to look for as we progress. So here it is. I've zoomed in to the region. That is our would-be tropical wave, and you can see it's got that wave structure down there, pretty well defined at hour 168. So let's move this through, and you can see how it comes together, gets a little bit of an assist, perhaps from some energy coming off South America, maybe just, you know, the shape of the coastline over here with Costa Rica, Panama. Just something about this area tends to increase the spin with our tropical waves when they come along kind of weak, right? And so we're out at about day 10 here, and it's off to the races. It starts to develop. So that's what we're going to watch for in the coming days. It enters the Caribbean kind of weak. And just to go back a few runs, let's do the 12Z on the 12th. This system was coming in pretty hot, as I can show you right there. It started to develop earlier, but it looks like conditions aren't going to be too favorable until later down the road, which is good news for our friends in the islands, specifically the Windward Islands down here. We'll watch this for you, and I'll be here all week, and we will talk about it each and every day, all right? So another thing that lends some credence to all of this, of course, part of that whole climatological spiel, very warm water still resides in this area, untapped. Nothing has plowed through here, churning stuff up. You see these cold wakes from some of our recent activity. Even Lorenzo out here cooling things off just a little bit. These are your anomalies, of course. If we zoom in, very warm, 30 degrees Celsius all through this area. Actual water temperatures, so you're talking about mid to upper 80s. And these water temperatures are all warmer than the 30-year average. We call these your anomalies, right? And our system could come right through here and start to gain some traction somewhere in this area. Or maybe it won't. We don't know that. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. But until the models completely drop it, the ensembles go silent. Google, Euro AI, whatever, and the physical models, until they go crickets on us, we're going to continue to watch this and try to determine what's next out there. And by the way, the next name, if we do use it, would be Melissa. All right, so we covered a lot here. Appreciate your time and attention. It's good to be back. Real quick thing before I let you go. Really nice to be able to work with some awesome people that I had never met before up in Bowers Beach in Delaware, kind of the southwest central side of Delaware Bay, just southeast of Dover. And how I picked that spot. They did get some major flooding there. It wasn't record setting, but I was looking at the flood gauges a couple of days ahead of this storm, and they were really starting to tick up there in the Delaware Bay region. And I thought, one of these small towns that could get record flooding, I don't want to ignore them. A lot of people are going to cover Norfolk. A lot of people are going to cover Atlantic City, elsewhere, Rehoboth Beach, whatever. And so I looked at Bowers. It was looking like it could be a record flood. I put my cameras on the Outer Banks, the additional cams. Then I went north, and I happened to meet the Swiftwater Rescue folks and other volunteer firemen and women at the fire department there in Bowers. And instant friendships, just a remarkable group of people up there, and I want to thank them for their hospitality. Luckily, it was not a big disaster. The potential was certainly there, but it showed me, hey, look, the Delaware Bay, it's important, it's vulnerable, and now I know a little bit more about it, so I can chalk that up to some good, gainful field experience. All right? That is it from me for today. You guys have a great rest of your Tuesday. From all of us at Hurricane Track, thanks for watching. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.